Thank you for the invitation to share some insights about the use of the CEFR in the labour market. This is a topic I've been interested in for many years and a question I've been investigating in several research projects, often in collaboration with colleagues from the Association of Language Testers in Europe, ALTE. So from the start, I need to underline that my knowledge about the use of the CEFR in the workplace is related first and foremost to the context where employers set language requirements in the majority language for non-native speaking migrants, but I hope my insights may be relevant also for the Welsh context. The main purpose of the CEFR is to promote language learning and to support learners. Yet it is often also used as a basis for setting language requirements. Even though there are advantages of using the CEFR also for this purpose, we should be aware that when setting requirements, there is always the risk of excluding some individuals. While language open doors, language requirements may also close doors. Worth mentioning is also the fact that even though we are talking about a pan-European framework, the CEFR, there are not only national differences, but also regional and local particularities that need to be kept in mind. Language requirements in the workplace need to be flexible enough to cater for local differences in the proficiency of the language, which I assume would also be the case in Wales. So in this presentation, I will focus on three main points. Firstly, advantages of using the CEFR in the labour market. Secondly, some challenges of using the CEFR for this purpose. And finally, some recommendations for policy making in this area. My comments and recommendations are based on insights from 3 research projects I've been involved in the past 6 to 7 years. And I will briefly present the aims and results of these studies too. It's important to underline before we start that language users, both first language users and language learners, do normally not have exactly the same level of proficiency in the 4 language skills. Most often, language users perform better in the receptive skills, reading and listening, than in the productive skills, speaking and writing, as is evident if we look at the language test scores of the Norwegian test for adult migrants over a period of 6 years. As you see, the dark blue area of the column represent the B2 level, and as we see, there is only a tiny percentage of the many thousand candidates, 120,000 to be exact, upon which this graph is represented, who managed to get B2 in the 4 skills. Another important background worth mentioning: can we trust language tests? There are good and not so good language tests out there. Not all tests yield valid scores. Therefore, when using language tests for high-stakes purposes, make sure to use tests that hold high quality. One way of ensuring this is to check if the test has obtained ALTE's quality stamp, its Q mark, which indicates that the test has been put forward for audit and meets the 18 minimum standards. So, the first study I will refer briefly was conducted with 3 colleagues from ALTE, Bart Degas from Belgium, Beate Zeidler from Germany, and Dina Vilcu from Romania. The study is published and available online. The aim of this study was to investigate how well known the CEFR is in the European labour market, in which professions it is most common to set CEFR-based language requirements, and finally, what levels are typically required for the different professions. The study covered 15 European countries as listed below. Unfortunately, Wales was not part of this study. As you see, in half of the countries, employers are not familiar with the CEFR. When asked in what professions there are CEFR-based language requirements, government administration is the sector where most countries have requirements, followed by teaching and education and healthcare. 2 countries also mention maintenance and transportation. And as you see, the levels required vary from A2 in maintenance transportation to C2 in teaching, and B2 to C1 for government administration. There is no clear pattern. Level seems to be a little hazardous. And also the sectors are underspecified. There are likely to be, and indeed it would be natural, if there were differences between requirements for doctors, nurses and healthcare assistants within the field of health. And to conclude, our study showed that the CFR does not seem to be very well known by European employers, nor does it seem to be very much used to set language requirements in the labour market. Our study showed that there are more CFR-based requirements in the public than in the private sector. The second study I wanted to mention was conducted between 2021 and 2023, also within ALTE. The aim of this study was to investigate to what extent different ALTE members offer language tests that yield separate scores in the different skills, and moreover, to what extent employers take advantage of the possibility to set differentiated language requirements when they hire non-native speaking applicants. As this graph shows, 19 of the 24 countries do measure the four skills in separate tests, in separate tests yielding different scores in the four skills. But only 12 countries take advantage of this when setting language requirements in the labour market. And we can assume that even if there are some use of differentiated language requirements, it is more than likely that in the same country there are even requirements, like same requirements in all four skills in some professions. So to conclude this study, it seemed clear that uneven test profiles is underexplored by employers when setting requirements for different jobs. One example that I thought I would mention, and which we call good practice in this report, are the national guidelines for language requirements for kindergarten assistants in Norway. This illustrates how the government has made a reasonable requirement, B1 in listening, speaking and reading, but a lower level, A2, in written production. And this is an approach that I would describe as good practice and a way forward when setting language requirements in the labour market. The last and most recent study I would like to briefly mention was one conducted in Norway between 2023 and 2025 as part of Miriam Schmaus's postdoctoral project, where Edith Bugge and myself were project participants. The first aim of this study was to map the extent to which there are CFR-based language requirements in vacancy ads in Norway. And if so, in what professions? The method of investigating this question was through a systematic web scraping of almost 90,000 vacancy ads in Norway. The second aim was to investigate whether standardized language requirements are less discriminatory than non-standardized language requirements. With standardized requirements, we mean requirements linked to the CFR or to a CFR-based language test, while with non-standardized language requirements, we mean expressions in vacancy ads, such as must master Norwegian in speaking and writing, or must have native-like proficiency in Norwegian, or must speak perfect Norwegian. This more complex question was investigated through data collection with more than 1,500 employers in Norway, and in which they judged 6 to 7 fictitious applications. And finally, we wanted to know what are relevant and appropriate language requirements for different professions. And for this question, we invited professionals with knowledge of the CFR levels to judge what they thought would be appropriate levels of language proficiency for different professions. I don't have the time to go into detail in all of this, but I will share some findings. The first question, how many employers set CFR-based language requirements and what requirements are set? This is based on the web scraping of 88,794 vacancy ads in Norway. As we see, there are almost no ads in which there are no specific language requirement for non-native speakers, less than 1%. More than 90% of the ads have language requirements that are non-standardized, so must speak perfect Norwegian or something along those lines. And in 10% of the cases, there are standardized requirements based on the CFR levels. What is also clear in the Norwegian context is that the level required in most ads, more than 5,600 ads, or 6% of the ads, is the B2 level in all 4 skills. When we think about how few migrants manage to get to that level in all 4 skills, it's quite clear then that setting a B2 requirement in all 4 skills might close the door to the labor market for a substantial percentage of the migrants in Norway. This is just a summary of the other questions. Does standardized language requirements hinder discrimination? And the answer to that question, based on our findings, was yes, with some conditions. We found that it is more likely that employers will hire migrants or non-native language speakers when they set CFR-based requirements and the applicant is able to demonstrate this level through a test certificate. But the standard requirements need to be reasonable and adequate for the position. Important that the requirement be not set higher than necessary. And since written production is the skill where most language learners struggle to perform well, it's important that employers don't set requirement of written production unless that is actually part of the job. If possible, differentiated requirements should be set. So, what are the advantages of using the CFR in the labor market based on these studies? First of all, setting standardized language requirements is the most fair way of setting requirements. Standardized language requirements, like the CFR, gives job applicants a fair chance to demonstrate their proficiency. If a requirement like must speak perfect Norwegian, you can never really know what the employer means by perfect. So it's not really possible to demonstrate that you have these skills through any kind of documentation. Secondly, our study shows that it is less discriminatory. In fact, when CFR requirements were set and the migrant were able to document the required level, migrants from Syria had almost as high a chance to be hired as native-speaking Norwegians. And finally, the CFR-based tests allow differentiated language requirements to be set. So the CFR and tests that are based on CFR allows employers to set lower requirements in written skills, as we saw the example that the Norwegian government set for kindergarten assistants. And even though there are advantages, there are also some challenges when using the CFR in the labor market. The main challenge, I would say, and our studies show, is a lack of familiarity with the CFR. We see in Norway and in these other countries that employers are generally not well informed about the CFR and the CFR levels. Still, they sometimes set CFR-based requirements. And this is a problem, especially when requirements are set too high. This may mean that employers risk to exclude qualified staff, which is a problem not only for the individual migrants or individual job applicant, but also, of course, for society and for the welfare state. Another challenge or something else to keep in mind is that even though the CFR describes language proficiency also in relation to the job domain, it describes language proficiency in a general way. It's not really job specific, it's general. This means that even when we hire employers with a high level of language proficiency, they might have to, or they will have to learn job-specific vocabulary. So this is something to keep in mind, and it is important that employers be aware of this fact, that even when hiring somebody with a B2 level, they will need to learn the work-specific vocabulary at the workplace. So I've been bold enough to also present some policy recommendation based on my experience in this field. In order for the introduction of the CFR-based requirements in the labour market to function in the best interest of employers and employees, and in your case, in support of the Welsh language, without risking excluding qualified personnel from the labour market, I would recommend the following. Since we know that local and regional, private and official employers do not necessarily know what the CFR stands for, I would recommend that you develop national CFR recommendations for different sectors, and that you do this in consultancy with CFR experts. Secondly, whenever possible, I would recommend that you develop differentiated language requirements linked to the specific tasks of the jobs that you're hiring for. This would open the door to the labour market for more applicants. The B2 level, as I showed, is a high level of proficiency. It is a level which requires not only language proficiency, but also some sort of academic or intellectual capability. So it's important to be aware that setting a B2 requirement may exclude qualified staff. So be careful with setting a B2 requirement unless the position you're hiring for requires higher education and a high level of also academic skills. As I mentioned in the introduction, it's important to have requirements that are flexible enough to cater for local differences. It might not be possible or adequate to set an equal requirement in the capital city as in the districts and in villages. Also important, employers should be recommended and supported in giving language support at their workplace, so that, for instance, one may hire an employee at a lower level and support the development of the language in the workplace. Finally, I would just like to draw your attention to an ongoing project that we're working on in Alte at the moment, and it is a development of a digital needs analysis for employers, where the purpose is to develop concrete job-related questions only related to the job in which you're hiring to support employers in setting adequate requirements. Based on the responses of employers, they should get a recommended differentiated requirement for the job. This is a work in project process which is due in the end of 2026. So to summarize it all, be aware of the double role of language requirements in the labour market, and do what you can to make sure that language and language requirements are real door openers and not gatekeepers to the labour market and society. Thank you.